Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. And today I am truly so excited to be talking to an amazing medium, somebody I've connected with a lot online, and he's been very patient waiting for me to get organised to speak to him. The incredible David Hale. Hi, David.
Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for being so patient and coming on to speak to us all today. I cannot wait to talk to you. So, first of all, if you could just introduce yourself, tell us what you do, what you like to do with your mediumship.
Oh, yeah. Well, first, thanks for inviting me on. I've wanted to do this for a long time because I've watched you for a long time as well, Hannah, in the background. I think we're very similar in our kind of, I think, our thoughts and things about mediumship. But yeah, I am based in Aylesbury in the UK, and I am now a demonstrating medium. So I'll go into my 8th year of this journey, really, officially. Started doing platform last year. So that's what I'm doing a lot of at the moment is platform work. Um, and I do a bit of healing now and again as well. I released a book a few years ago as well on the mediumship journey, have my own podcast. But I mean, I was just kind of focusing on still finding how do I say it? Finding my comfortability, if that's even a word, on platform, because it can be a scary place.
It is, but
Yeah.
it's also addictive, isn't it? If you love it. Like,
Yeah.
I know some
Yeah.
people do it and they're like, oh my God, never again. But, if you're booking in more, there must be part of you that is called
Hmm.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you with your shiny jackets online, looking really fancy. I know you love it. Um, so how did this all start for you? Have you always been aware of spirit, or was it something later in life?
It was something later in life, and I guess it came about more through fascination more than anything else. So I didn't grow up seeing dead people walking around. I didn't see a dead person stood at the end of my bed or top of my stairs, the same old stories that you tend to hear. Um, I grew up, my mum's side of the family, Irish Catholic. So I went to a Roman Catholic school and had to go to Catholic church every week and all that business. And it never really resonated with me. And it wasn't until I was 14, and I remember it was a Christmas Eve, and my mum was going to the church with my brother and my sister because they're younger than me. They were still in Catholic school at this point. I'd left, and they were going to the Christmas Eve church service. And at 14, I was like, "Do I have to?" And at that, but please don't drag me there. But it so happened that that particular year there were a lot of burglaries down our street where people's presents were being stolen. So actually, my mum said to me, "Well, do you know what? You're 14. You're old enough to go and discover what you want to believe in." And therefore, I stayed at home and never went back to church ever again. So that was that
Mm.
that point there. And then around that time, I had discovered um, the mediums that we know, like the Colin Frys, the Tony Stockwells, all those mediums online. Back in the day when you had cable and you had living TV, which showed all the paranormal shows.
Oh, I'm
Um,
so jealous. I never had that and I always wanted it. Yeah, go on.
yeah. So I watched all these mediums, and even when I watched The Most Haunted and stuff like that, it wasn't the creepy stuff I was interested in. But I always looked at those mediums and I thought, wow, look what they can do. And I used to think they were really special and they were just born special. I've since changed my mind, but I used to look at them in a certain kind of way, and it never spooked me, it just fascinated me. And then I started going to psychic fairs and things like that, and I went to see these mediums on stage in a live environment, and I was just drawn to it for whatever reason. And you go to psychic fairs and you sit there, and the psychics would always say, you've got an ability, you should work on it. And at that point, I was like, thanks,
Yeah.
next, because I had no idea. No, I didn't know what spiritualism was or anything like that. I just knew that these people could do what they did. And then I got to my late teens and kind of did nothing with it because I came out and I was finding out who I was. I went on that journey and then became a drag queen and did that for 12 years. So that completely shifted my awareness. And then it wasn't until I got to 34 and something in my head just said, right, now it's time. I think what it was, I was sat on my bed and I was on YouTube. You know, there's moments where you're on YouTube and you fall into this hole somewhere, and then 4 hours later you're still watching it, and you think, why am I still here? Why am I watching that video? And
Yeah.
it was Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, that I not that I necessarily agree with how she works, but just watching that, something said in my head, right, remember what those people did for you when you were younger. Maybe it's your turn to do it. And that was a starting point, really. And then started my development from there.
Oh my goodness. And how did you develop? Like how did you unfold into mediumship?
Well, the first thing I did, I was feeling a little bit lost in life at that point as well. So what I decided to do, because my mum's done it before, I called a psychic hotline. Maybe not the
Oh,
maybe not the best thing to do, but
yeah, like I don't
um,
know. I get very mixed reviews on them. I think it
yeah,
depends
so do
what you're
I.
looking for.
But I called this one woman, and she had given me loads of stuff, and she gave me the name of my first guide, which I didn't know at the time. That's a whole nother story. So she gave me loads of things there. And then I called another one. I don't know why, but I did. And the first thing she said to me was, "You're psychic, aren't you?" And I was like, "Oh, am I? Don't know. You tell me, love." So again, she gave me those other things, bits and pieces as well. And I thought, okay, it's time to, it almost came with a little extra kick to go, right, I can do something with this. So I went to Google, and if it's on Google, it must be true. So I was researching through Google what I should do to open my third eye, meditate every half an hour for the next 10 weeks or whatever it was, right? Stupid things. So I kind of learned that way first. And then I found a mentor online who worked with me for a little while. And it started off as psychic development to start with. And
Mm.
then something pulled me to mediumship. It wasn't a conscious thing, but I felt that I needed to be with people who understood what I was doing because no one else in my family did. So I
Mhm.
joined, I found a spiritualist church, and then that was it. And then I sat in circle for a few years. So that's where my development really started with mediumship, is sat in a circle in a spiritualist church.
Amazing. I love it. What a story. So I anyone who knows me is going to know that drag for me is like a red rag to a bull. So I'm not just going to skip over the drag bit because I was like, oh my God. Because I think for me, you may have heard me say this, but RuPaul's Drag Race was absolutely instrumental in my development because I watched it back to back. And I think that uh, performance mediumship platform, there has to be more than just delivering the messages. You
I'll
need a bit
completely
of
agree.
pizzazz. You need a bit of, and so, when I watched all of those amazing drag queens just fold in on themselves, they were so great. And then they let their fear beat them. And and I could see people, when they were baking their makeup and getting into their energy to get ready, and you could
Mm,
see the characters and the performance. It was
yeah.
so valuable for me. In fact, when I'm getting ready to dem, I still listen to RuPaul all the way through because it puts me in the like getting ready to perform zone. So
Yeah.
how do you feel like do you feel like drag was instrumental in making you the medium that you are now?
So I don't know, because only because I think with drag, and I was a part of a trio, so it wasn't just me on stage either. There was three of us, so we had the
Mhm.
comfortability of having, your girls on stage with you. And I think with the drag thing, you are putting on, almost like you're putting on that mask, you're putting on that character. So although I was myself on stage, people weren't seeing David, they were seeing my alter ego. And so you have that kind of comfortability of, well, people are not seeing me in the rawness here, they're seeing this person, this man in a dress, right? But I was quite feminine looking back then, so I was the more feminine one in the group, and I kind of played up to that a little bit. But you kind of have that act on, so it's not you're being seen as who you are. But when it comes to mediumship dems, you are you. I can't hide behind any wig or dress or makeup. It's just me on stage in my shiny jackets
Yeah,
and
looking amazing,
that bit of
looking fab.
showbiz there.
Good, I love it. Work.
um, exactly. But saying that though, I do think it has helped in some way because I know I've been on a stage before, so it's at least it's not alien to me, but it's very different in the fact that on one hand I was just dancing, looking like a hooker, and on the other hand, I'm on stage in a nice shiny jacket doing something which is not necessarily guaranteed.
Yeah.
With the drag stuff, I knew my routines, I knew the choreography. That was guaranteed. When
Yeah.
I'm on a platform mediumship, I could stand there and go, oh, fuck, no, no, come on, show up. Where
Yeah.
are
Are
you?
you there?
So are you there? Come on. So exactly.
No.
So I thought, where's my wig now? It's not here. Um, so it's very different in that sense. But I do feel like, again, that some of it has kind of lent itself to, oh, I'm on a stage. It's still a comfortable space. As nervous as I still am, I'm still used to a crowd looking at me, if that makes sense. But for
Yeah.
different reasons.
Yeah, because I was talking to some of my students about this the other day, and I sounded really like hard, but I just said, if you can't stand up in front of a room of 30 people and say, this is my name, this is what I do for a living, these are my beliefs, all stuff that you already know, then there's no way you can do mediumship because you've got to learn to be able to be seen before
Yeah,
you can go into the vulnerability and the altered state of mediumship first. So, yeah, but I hear you about the persona and hiding and all of
yeah.
that. It's so interesting, isn't it?
Mm,
I love it. So, platform. It's my app. It's I love it. It's my absolute passion. It's hard. It's hard as
yeah.
hell. It
Hmm.
costs you a lot in energy. Really takes its toll. I wasn't expecting. Okay, do you find it exhausts you?
Oh yeah. The next day,
Yeah.
I'm like, I
Yeah,
don't book anything in for the next day because I can't do it.
yeah, and like no one ever talked about that. And it was only when I was watching Tyler Henry on Netflix and he was refusing to get out of bed. And I went, oh my God, there's not something wrong with me. Because I
Yeah.
just kept thinking that when I'd got better and good enough, I wouldn't feel like I've been hit by a truck anymore. But that seems to be a permanent state.
Yeah.
But it costs you a lot, but it's an amazing thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you feel makes good platform mediumship?
Well, one, I think it's having the skill to do it in the first place, right? Um, because you do watch a lot of people and you do without, slagging anyone off, you do look at them and think, that wasn't the greatest thing I saw. Um, so
Sure.
so the skill is one thing. I also think, as you said before, it's also about the delivery and about because we can give evidence all day long, right? But it's about how you deliver that and also being able to keep or having the personality or the character to keep the entire congregation or audience engaged with you. So if I'm talking to someone over here for 10 minutes, I still need everybody else to be engaged in what I'm doing and not switching off or falling asleep or picking the nose, whatever else I want to do, right?
Mhm.
So it is, so anyone can stand there and do it, but I do feel that it's an aspect, I don't want to say showmanship because mediumship is not for entertainment, but it should still be entertaining and to keep people engaged because that's what you want. I don't ever want to look at an audience and I've got someone falling asleep because I think that would really probably affect me. And I think, am I boring you or something? Or am I just a rubbish medium? So you've got to make the choice at that point to go, right, when I get on this platform, I'm here to show people what I can do, what mediumship's about, but to make sure that people also enjoy it and have fun whilst they're there. And that's how I work anyway.
I completely agree. Because I think if you can engage the audience, you get more energy. So your mediumship's better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if everyone's switched off, they've pulled their energy fields back. So it's just you having to do all of the slog. Whereas if
Hmm.
everyone's like, wow, and laughing, I always try to get them to laugh because it
Yeah.
just brings in that energy. So I completely agree. And that I think is why platform isn't for everybody. And
Yes.
it's okay to not be for everybody. You have to find the most comfortable space for you, but also the best space for you.
Yeah.
And I love that. So you went on to you doing your development, you've joined a circle, you've started doing mediumship. How did you know that it was time to start working as a medium? When did that unfold for you?
So I still question it now. No,
Well, yeah, same.
um, I've I was quite when I was. Am I impatient? I might be a little bit impatient. I feel like when I was in circle, when I get hold of something and I feel I'm really good at it, I kind of want to run with it. I'm like a dog with a bone, right? And sitting in circle was great, but I found that week to week I was reading for the same people over and over again. And for me, in my head, I was like, this is not stretching my development, because although we don't remember our readings, there are parts of people's lives that we do remember if we continue to read
Yeah.
for them. And so I thought, I need to do something. So I still stayed in circle, but I started doing little things outside of that privately, not paid for anything like that. But I made myself aware, known to people that I was doing this, but I was just practicing. And it started with a reading I did on Halloween in 2017. So I still remember that date. And it freaked me out, that reading, I've got to say, but it started the spark of I can do it. And I think I did a year's worth of free readings actually after that, just to build up my own confidence and to make sure that what I was doing was not a fluke and that was really happening and I didn't guess it and all this business. And I think it was about, I think it was 2018, 2019 when I started charging and doing it. And I wouldn't have called myself necessarily a professional because I still had another job. But that's when I started charging, I think, that year. And then platform was a completely different story to do with our friend Bill Hughes.
Oh, was it? Well, tell us that story then.
Well, Bill had been watching me, unbeknownst to me, I was doing all my stuff online on Facebook, on his Facebook groups and all that kind of stuff. And he'd contacted me to do his show, Collective Consciousness, which he did have on SPTV. So I did a
Yeah.
couple of them. And then it was 2022, I think it was the August, I want to say. And he said, right, Mr. Hale, I've been sent to you. Have you? He said, I've got 4 dates for Bognor Regis Spiritualist Church next year. Pick one because you're doing it. And it's one of those occasions where you start sweating and you come over all hot and you think, oh, I should really take the opportunity, but something in me saying, no, you can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it. And because it's August, right? And this date I picked was not until April, I thought, I've got a while to think about it. So I said, I'll do the April one. And then it came round to the March and I started sweating again. I think, oh, why have I said yes to this?
Yeah. Try get out of it now.
I can't
Yeah.
get out of it now. And so Bill, he's the one that took me by the scruff of the neck. I said,
Oh,
right,
I love that
you're
though.
doing this with me. And yeah, and since then we've worked together quite a few times doing dems and things, and he always puts my name out there. So I do reference him as my fairy godfather because he's the one that took me out for my very first physical platform.
Yeah. Oh,
So
good.
yeah,
He's such a fantastic man. That is so
he is.
lovely. I love it. Oh, that's fantastic. And I mean, the fight or flight when you're demming is real, isn't it? Like, there is just the number of times that I've been so sort of in a space of I could just refund everybody and run. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to do this. I'm just gonna go. Um, it's it is it never goes, I don't think. I think that's always gonna be there.
Yeah, I think I always have the nerves before any dem I do. I've controlled them a little bit more now. But there's still those butterflies and that thought in your head, that passing thought which I try to tell, to bugger off, but which says,
Yeah.
oh, why are you here?
Yeah.
What if
What if
nothing
no one
happens?
comes?
What if no
Yeah.
one comes? And like, do you know what? Bugger off. I just got to go and do it. And
Yeah.
I heard someone say something the other day. It's like once you're on the platform, that's it. You can't suddenly run off. So once you're there and you get going, that's it, you're there. And that's kind of what I
Yeah.
try to remember. Once I'm sat there, there's no going back. Here I am. And yeah,
Absolutely.
what happens,
So
happens.
I love it. So you mentioned that I just want to circle back to that your one of that first reading you did. It was I can't remember what word you use now. Traumatic, difficult,
Yeah, it did freak me
challenging.
out. Yeah,
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 freaked you out. That's it. So
yeah.
tell us why. What happened?
Not in a scary way. I think that I saw the reaction that it created, which was not negative. So basically what happened was it was a guy who was open to it anyway because he was Spanish, right? And his mother who lived in Spain owned a metaphysical shop, so she sold things like crystals, and so it was kind of used to it. And he was very much aware that it's my first one, and he said no, just practice on me, it's fine. And I don't know why I asked him, but I said bring a photo with you, And I'd never practiced that at the church. God knows why I asked him, but I did. So he got a
Ah,
photo of a woman with him. And but as I looked at it, I didn't feel that woman. I felt an older lady. So at that point, I thought, oh, what am I going to do? Because that's not the person I'm seeing in my head. But it turned out to be his grandmother. Oh, and before that, actually, we actually did it at work. I booked a meeting room after my shift. Not that I should have done it, but I did. And I sat in the room next door and just to meditate, because you have to meditate apparently before you get into the zone. Anyhow, I was looking at a white wall, and as I looked at this white wall, I saw a cross appear on the wall, and I thought, maybe my eyesight's going. Maybe I'm that nervous that my eyesight is failing me all of a sudden. So, so I went into the room and I sat down and I said, after I brought his grandmother through, I said, well, I'm going to say something to you. It might sound a bit mad, but when I sat in that room, I saw a cross on the wall, to which he gasped. And I thought, oh God, what have I said? He said, my grandmother's name is, I think it was Maria Cruz. Cruz is a Spanish word for cross. And so I was a little bit, how did that happen? And then I saw his auntie come through and I said, I've got issues in my stomach down here because I don't feel very well. All of a sudden, I've got pains down here. And she died of cervical cancer.
wow.
And he started crying. And he's quite a manly, yeah, I say quite a manly man. And he started crying. And in that moment, I thought, what have I done? Because if I'm going to make someone cry, I want to make them cry because I've really done it. And I think, because in my head, I was going, is it a fluke? Did I make that up? Did I pull it in? I almost felt a
Mm.
sense of guilt for making him cry, because at that point I didn't realize I was actually doing it. And so we finished the reading. He got on his phone to his mother in Spain. They were crying on the phone together, which is nice. But I looked at that thinking, well, I hope that's for the right reasons. I hope it's because I did do it, and that's why it freaked me out a little bit, because I was still in my head about,
Yeah.
was that real? Well, the evidence was there. There's still that sense of doubt.
You are so incredibly honest. I love it. I love talking to you, David, because I think a lot of mediums go through that. Even when you give, like I do that. I have this thing that I say to my spirit guides, and I know they're just getting so annoyed with me because if on the odd occasion where I manage to get a name or something, I'm like, that I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I don't go, oh my God, amazing, for longer than like 10 seconds because
Mm.
I'm already going, wow, how many people in the UK have got that name? If you throw enough darts at a dartboard, one of them will hit a bullseye.
But
And,
yeah,
and I've already sucked all of the joy out of it. And I think, I'm so glad that you shared that story because that is the journey and it doesn't go anywhere. It's every link you ever do. I mean, I know you don't fully remember them afterwards, but you remember the bloody
yeah,
nose, don't you?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is just incredible. So I know you've got loads of dems like lined up because you're really going in for it. And I will say this as somebody that has done a lot of dems and worked really hard on it, the fear does. It's kind of like you have a bit of logic in with your fear after a while, which has only happened really recently with me, which has been, well, it worked the last 27 times, so it's bound to work this time. But I had to get
Yeah.
to a point where I'd been in my fear for so long, and I still sound a little bit like a sheep when I first walk out on stage because my nerves go here, and then I'm like, "Good evening, everyone," and I'm, damn it, take a breath, stop it. So yeah, I wish it didn't manifest there, but it does. So you've got all your dems, but you've also got your TV show on Spiritual Psychics TV. Talk to us about that and tell us what you do.
Well, I've changed it up a little bit. So originally it was called Midweek Mediumship, and it was just doing pure mediumship during the show. But I felt that I wanted to change it and do something different, because there are so many platforms out there which do free readings. And for me, mediumship is not just about readings. For me, it's about teaching, it's about sharing knowledge as well. And that's a place I come from, because I wanted to show people how it works, but not just through readings, but actually through talking and through educating. And so I decided to rename it and then do it it's a tea time show. So almost like a bit of variety. So the most recent ones have been a lot of Q&A. So it's answering questions that people have. because people don't necessarily
Nice.
understand it. If I throw in a random reading here and there, that's all right. But I just wanted it to just change, just to educate people. Because normally after me, because our mine's at 6, there's one at 8. Normally the one at 8 is readings again anyway. So, well,
Mm.
let's switch it up and let's change it and let's just do something different. And hopefully it answers questions that people have. So that's
Which
what it's
is so
about. It's about
important.
education for me.
Oh, I love it. That's fantastic. And you've also got your Coming Down to Earth with Spirit podcast, which you've
Yes.
done 2 seasons of.
2 seasons. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you finding the podcasting journey?
It's, I enjoy doing it, but it has been put to rest just for a while because I only want to do it if I feel I've got something to say. And
Hmm.
if I haven't, I'm not going to do it because I'm not going to just sit there waffling on about a load of old bollocks, right? So I want to make sure it's purposeful. It is hard work, and I think people don't realize the work that goes into it. And because a lot of the recording, but if you're like me, I'm my own worst enemy, I think. I'm quite a perfectionist, so I could record for an hour, and I think I don't like any of that. So I delete it and start the whole thing again, which take so I do my own heading.
Yeah.
But then you've got to edit it afterwards and add your sound clips in, the advert, or whatever else you want to do, the beginning, the end. So I enjoy doing it. I think people got some good answers from it, but it's just a lot of work. And when you've got other stuff going on, you've got to find the
Yeah.
balance, right? And
Well, Spirit once said to me when I was selling crystals, and I loved it, even though I never made a profit because I was like, one for me, one for the customers. And then all of a sudden I was like, this isn't working. And they were like, no, it won't. But they said to me, anyone can sell crystals. We need you to focus over here. We need your energy over here. And I think, you're definitely being called to platform and helping
yeah,
people in a different way at the moment. And it might
yeah,
circle back, but I hear you. Podcasting is a lot of work, and you can give so much of yourself away. And that's part of the reason that I moved to seasons, because when I first started this podcast, my plan was just to have one out or two out every week without a fail. And then I realized that I was just exhausting. And like you say, you don't want to record for the sake of recording, you
yeah,
want it to be good.
yeah.
So completely
Hmm.
agree. Now tell us about your book, which is Coming Down to Earth.
Yes.
Yes. Tell us all about that. What's it about? What made you decide to write a book? Because it's bloody hard work.
Oh, it is. Do you know what? Writing a book was probably the furthest from my mind because growing up, I wasn't really a reader. Not that I can't, 'cause I can, but I was always doing something else. I was doing my gymnastics or listening to music or dancing, whatever else I was doing. But after my nan passed in 2018, she was an avid reader, and for a period afterwards, I kept getting that thing in my head of write a book, write a book. And I kept resisting it and pushing it, thinking, I can't write a book. I barely read. But I kept getting thinking in my head, write a book, write a book. Thought, okay, if I'm going to write a book, what is it about? And I just felt like, because I was quite fresh into my development at that point, I felt like I had a lot on my chest that I wanted to get off because I saw so much rubbish out there and things which did not resonate with me whatsoever. And I thought that there's so much airy fairiness out there as well, which again doesn't resonate with me at all. And I knew that if I was going to write a book, it would have to be real, raw, and honest, cutting out all the bullshit and all the airy fair. It's not about rainbows, clouds, and unicorns because that's not people make it out to be that's the journey, but it really isn't. It can be a painful journey as well. So I wanted to put that spin on it. So I thought what I'll do is write a book which it firstly started to be aimed at newly developing mediums, but then also thought as I was writing the book, thought well actually some of these topics here could actually answer questions that people have that not want to be mediums, but maybe they've lost a lot of people. Maybe they wonder about where does that person go if they pass that way, or what's my thoughts on bleeding haunted dolls and all that shit. So that's in the book. That's in the book as well. So as well, it's not an autobiography, but there obviously anecdotes of my life in it, so people can look at it and go, ah, well, if David's gone through that, I'm not mad because he's experienced what I've experienced. So people can look at it and compare. But I say also it touched on topics which people might not have thought about. And actually, just to put an example on that, I had a friend who I went to school with whose parents are very Catholic, Irish. And she sent me a message. I've not spoke to her for many years, but she sent me a message out the blue saying, "Can I say I've read your book, and I thought it was a load of old rubbish or a bit scary at to start with, but I have to say, reading your book has changed my whole outlook on it."
Wow.
And that's what I didn't write the book to convert people or convince people because that's not for me to do, right?
Mhm.
But the fact that it got her thinking differently and other people thinking differently, and that it's not a scary thing, I'm not raising the dead, or anything like that. It just puts it gave people something else to think about and to think about from a different perspective, but whilst at the same time making people laugh, apparently, because apparently it's quite funny because it's written how I
Yeah,
talk.
I saw your glowing reviews on Amazon, and everyone was saying how funny it was and how much it helped them. And I just thought it was really lovely. So that's fantastic. Obviously, I'm going to put a link to your websites on the show notes. So anyone that wants to go buy your book or check out your dems or any of you've got some videos that people can learn on there and all sorts, haven't you? So
Yeah.
everybody can pop over there and have a look. Okay, I've got a couple more questions for you if you don't
Yeah.
mind.
No, I don't mind.
Number one is what are your three biggest tips for developing mediums? What do you think that every person who's right at the start of their journey, like me and you, no apparitions, no bloody idea, what do they need to do?
First thing I would say is um, one, don't compare yourself to other people. Your journey is your journey. It's very easy to get caught up in how come I'm in the same class with this person for the same time, but they're doing that thing over there and I'm not, because your life experience lends it to your mediumship, just like that person's life experience does as well. So don't compare yourself to other people. Um, the other thing I'll say is do your research and find what works for you, because a development circle in a church is not for everybody. Home circles might benefit you more. Studying by yourself might benefit you, but really look at what suits you and why you want to do it. I don't think that question is asked enough. I think some people can tend to jump into it without
Mm.
realizing what they're doing or why they want to do it. So it's really questioning if you start a mediumship journey, why? If it's a fame and fortune, forget it.
For
But it's
sure.
if, but if it's because you but if it's because you want to help people and you feel pulled to it, then do it. But so ask that question. And the last thing I'll say is what my guide said to me. Just a little bit of backstory to it. Now, out there's so many different books. No, talking about books, there's so many different viewpoints and opinions on the same topic, but they're all different. So you could read
Mhm.
5 books on the same topic, and each book's going to give you something different. And I kind of went through that at one point, and I said to my guide, I said, "Dolly, what do I do here?" And she went, "David, you have to go with what resonates with you." And that's what I would say. It's you go with what, because you can tell this by that medium, that by that medium, but if that doesn't resonate with you, then it doesn't. So you really have to go with what feels right to you and who you want to learn from. And there's so many different teachers out there that, you know, see different ones, without putting anyone out of a job here, but
Yeah.
it's like in school. Throughout school, you don't have one teacher teaching the same thing. You have different teachers for different topics and subjects. So again, do that research, but go with what resonates with you as well. And I'm not saying you have to believe what I put in my book. If you don't believe what I put, you don't, that's fine. But it's
Yeah.
my experience that I'm giving. So yeah, there's those
I
three
completely
things.
agree. And I wish that I had heard that when I was at the start of my journey, because I think a lot for me, even though I was not brought up religious, but I kind of was brought up with the almost this idea in my mediumship that I had to be grateful for what I got. Rather than going, that does not resonate with me. I was like, oh, okay, well, you have
Yeah.
said it, so it must be true. And then it took a long time for spirit to undo things that had been taught to me that are no longer part of my reality. So I completely understand that. And it's really hard at the beginning because I think we're so we're so called to it because we love it so much that we do put ourselves sometimes in very vulnerable positions with
Yeah.
teachers.
Yeah.
And so, absolutely. Okay, now I know you talked about have you ever been haunted by a demonic doll, just out of interest?
Funnily enough, no. Have you?
No, never. I just, aside from that part of it, what is something that you wish, and this is your chance to get on your soapbox if you want to,
Oh,
about you wish that everybody knew about mediumship? If you could like beam this message into every home in the world, what would you tell them?
oh God, I can go off many different tangents here, Hannah. Where should I start? What soapbox should I get on first? Um, I wish people would either well, this could be a teacher's fault as well, but teach and understand the mechanics of how it works. We are not seeing, well, I'm not anyway, seeing dead people walking around. I'm not having dead people shout in my ear roll. Um, I'm not seeing things out in front of me because that's just not how it works.
Mhm.
I think if people understood the mechanics of it and where our mindset needs to be and what frame of mind we need to be in, people would understand it more and
Yeah,
understand that because of that, it's not easy. And I think as well, mental health goes hand in hand with mediumship. And I was actually going to write a book on that, but that might be a third one. But I think we sometimes see, someone said it to me the other day, is that they've been watching a medium for ages and suddenly they've disappeared. Don't know where they've gone. And people don't realize that sometimes the mental toll it can have, if our mind is not in the right space, if our mental health is being affected by mediumship, it's very hard to do it. I know if
hmm,
I'm sick or if I'm really exhausted, I find it really hard to connect. And that's when I panic even more. Because if I've got a dem that night and I'm feeling completely zonked, I drive to that venue thinking, oh my God,
yeah.
someone remove me
Help.
from remove me from the situation now. I hope they ring me and suddenly cancel it. You know, those silly things you
Yeah,
go through in your head,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, it's the mental process that happens. And the skeptics and cynics don't do it any favors where they think, oh, we're just mad or I've made that up. Or, no, that's mechanically
I
not how it works. Please try and understand it. So that's one big thing I'll say is learning the mechanics. What's the other thing I would say? Yeah, I think it's not easy. I think people think it's an easy thing to do. I mean,
mhm.
ultimately, it should be. When we got on platform, it should be an easy process, but it's easier said than done because that's not always the case. Um, oh, I don't know. I've got so many tangents here,
No,
and
I
I'll
know,
go
I
over
love
there,
it,
over
but
there.
you're
Do you know
right
what I mean?
because it's that I think you're completely right about people taking headspace as well, because in that in that even if it's a millisecond, that gap when you open up to spirit and you've got all eyes on you, in that millisecond when you're opening up, or 10 seconds or however long it takes you to create that and start getting in your blend and the flow, you do face yourself, and that part of yourself that you face is not nice. That
Mm,
part of the part of you that you face is the bit that says, I remember doing a dem in Faversham, and I had 150 people there. I had the mic, and all of a sudden I just looked out and I was working with the spirit, and it just hijacked me, and that human part of me went, everyone here hates you and the audience is bored stiff. And I just went, and I completely lost my link. And me
yeah,
being me, I just told them on the microphone, "Hang on a minute, I've just had an existential crisis." But like, it does happen. You do
yeah,
have to, So not only are you processing, a father's sorrow that he wasn't a great dad when he was in the spirit, when he was here, but from the spirit world, he's trying to make a difference. A mother who's grieving because their child has gone, and they want to know why, and there's no answer that anyone can give that would ever take away her pain. But you're also dealing with your own stuff. So absolutely, we do have to really take care of ourselves.
absolutely. And that's like we've talked about a lot of that self-work, that self-healing that needs to be done. There is a great truth to that because how can you help other people when you're not good yourself?
Yeah, you
It's
can't.
a cliche, but it's true.
Yeah, you're so right. I could talk to you all day, even though my voice is going, but it's held up all right. And I'm so, so grateful for you to come on. I have really, really loved talking to you. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely. And thanks again for inviting me. I've
Oh,
looked
it's
forward to it
been
for a long
so good.
time.
Yeah, I know you've waited very patiently, and it's been phenomenal, as I knew it would be. So I will put your website in the show notes so everybody can go and check you out. And thank you again.
Thank you very much.